go. We are live, everybody. Hello there. Welcome back to Mastering the Drop, a real view of recovery, where we are talking every week about all the different areas of our life that require a recovery journey or a recovery lifestyle adjustment or change, because this is a period or a space that really can be challenging if you don't know where to start, where to begin, etc., etc., etc. I have just been waiting all month for this week's guest. We have met on different networking platforms that we are members of together, and I am just so happy to have Marelda Rodrigues here. She's an author, a speaker, a grief massage and wellness specialist, guys. Can you even believe that? Anyway, today, Marelda is going to bring us into her world. We are going to be exploring how to go from fear to confident when we're navigating the emotional weight of grief, why grief wellness is the most essential part of healing from any loss. Again, remember, any loss. It's not just the standard that we think of. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is actually Marelda is going to give us some simple wellness tips to have better moods, energy, and sleep. It's going to be so practical, so fun. I cannot even wait. So without further ado, here is my amazing friend, Marelda. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. That was like a chock full of information.
Yeah. So tell us. I mean, I was so intrigued and awestruck, I guess, when we had our first, get together. But so I don't know, give everybody a little insight to your story and how you even came. I mean, this massage and grief marrying is just, to me, it's amazing.
I think it's pretty amazing too. And the results have been pretty amazing. I've been a massage therapist now for 22 years. And I started when I was 3. So yeah, it's 22 years now. But what I started with is actually neuromuscular therapy. And really, very simply put, it's really a lot of rehab work through massage, right? You got rehab work through surgery. You can do rehab work through physical therapy. And then usually when the person's done with their physical therapist and they just need sort of like, they're in achy spots and they're still healing. And massage can be very beneficial. It also helps in minimizing scar tissue, that kind of stuff. So that was really my world. And of course, being as adventurous as I am, I didn't want to be just the relaxation girl, right? I needed show me some stuff that I can work on. And so that was the path that I took. I pretty much honed in on that and built clientele in some major cities. And I was I want to say around 2019, it had been 20 years and I was kind of wearing out and I was like, what else is there to do? And, the same thing. My back, my legs, my thighs. So it's like, you hear the same thing over and I was like, oh my God, I need something else. So I was actually thinking I was going to retire. But apparently the universe didn't think I was going to retire. So the universe was like, oh no, look, I have something in the closet for you. So it literally was a conversation. Now, in 2018, I happened to have a client who came in and said to me, I don't know how you can help me, but my daughter just died 2 weeks ago. And so I looked at her and it was just really an energetic feel. And I thought, okay, how can I help this woman? So I helped her onto the table and just really went inside myself and intuitively gave her something that I felt would really help her body in that state of unknown, right? Grief is a big unknown. Even if you've read about it, even if maybe you witnessed it with somebody else, when it actually happens to you, no matter the event of the loss, it is very unnerving. It is chaotic. It is just anything but smooth. And so it's anything but smooth. It's anything but comforting. And you lose your utter sense of confidence, because really, who has a grief class? It's kind of like when, you get a newborn and you don't have any real parenting experience and they go, here's your baby. And you're like, wow, okay. So it's a lot of unknowns, lots of nuances. Each person's journey is so different. However, the one thing that the body does that's very similar is that it goes into a state of fight or flight, because there's unknowns and there's a lot of need for survival, immediate survival, right? With this big overbearing emotion. However, it shows up in the body, whether it is an ache, a tension, a actual physiological imbalance, like a blood sugar imbalance. If someone's got a heart condition, it can exacerbate. So suffering increases. And when suffering increases, imagine having a blood sugar imbalance that's going to throw your system off. And now you've got grief to deal with on top of not feeling good physically. And so when you can come into a treatment that allows you to calm down a little bit, you can kind of calm some of these fires, the blood sugar imbalances, the aches and pains, things like that.
So you're seeing a lot of things, and I'm getting all of these wonderful pings in my brain, right? Now I get it. We're not in the same space. We're not in the same local space. I don't even work with people that are, local. I mean, we both, are, we're in different parts of the world. But so here's what I want to make sure, though, that we say is, okay, so we're talking about, recovery journeys. So, we've associated it to the loss of a child. So we think of, death and absolutely, right. And so just so I can help like my listeners kind of get into that headspace, like when we have a stressful situation that goes on, we know, like we get that cortisol dump in our stomach, our digestion isn't working right. We start to get sluggish. We have the tension in our shoulders. And for a lot of us, we start seeking things outside of us, right? Now, bear with me, everybody. I know you're going to say, well, so's Marelda, this grief massage therapist is somebody that's outside of us. But, we start to seek things outside of ourselves to bring us peace, comfort, relief, right? And so, as you're feeling these things, whether it's, completely retreating into, depressive states where we're sedentary and we're just sitting there, or we're reaching for, food or, alcohol, marijuana, whatever it is, there is this space where it's because our physical body is telling us like, hey, help, right? Like that fight or flight. It's, hey, help. I need something, I need instant gratification, I need instant relief right now. And so what I'm hearing Marelda is introducing to us is a different distress tolerance tactic. If I'm to tie it directly back into my own curriculum that I work with my clients in our first, our foundational piece of work is cultivating those distress tolerance tactics and skill sets that are effective, right? Doing what works and being effective. So if we can say, whether it's because a lot of us in our recovery journeys lose our relationships, right? Either our marriages are falling apart, our relationship with our children are falling apart, or we're losing a job, or, all the things, right? Like loss of whatever it is. A lot of us mourn our loss of the very reason why we're on a recovery journey. We need to cut all ties with our relationship with alcohol, or, shopping, or sugar, or whatever it is, right? Like we're losing our best coping mechanism, our best friend that we've been relying on for so many years. There's a period of grief in that. And so I want all of my listeners to be thinking broader terms when we're talking about grief and loss, because a lot of us do experience a period of grief, remorse, emptiness, because we don't have this whatever maladaptive thing is that we've been relying on. So I want all of the perspectives to be broad, because if we're mourning, if we're grieving, if we're in this, again, physical state of fight or flight, right? So Marelda is giving us like this wonderful gem of a coping skill here. Anyway, back to you. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
I was just feeling all of these things and needed to dump it
yeah,
out.
and to sort of like really dovetail into that, sort of like really put all that in a package, right? It started off with just the awareness that this woman was feeling this loss, right? And she came in for this massage, which she loved the outcome of it, that she came back a couple of weeks after that, and asked for the same thing. And so I had to kind of go back into myself and come out with the same thing that I gave to her. Now, the year after, there was a lot of loss in a lot of different ways in my world. So not personally that year, but around in my circle. There were losses of marriage, pets, lifestyle, right? You have so many different. So I really tried to define what it was that I was bringing to the world. And ultimately, one of my mentors talked about how it's a loss of attachment. So grief is really, how I define it in my world, is grief is a loss of attachment to a person, pet, lifestyle, or possession. So it could be a house that burned down. It could be, through the pandemic now, we've seen people lose their businesses, lose their finances, lose their, family connections. Yeah. So much isolation. People who get new diagnoses, loss of health. So there's really a loss of something that you are attached to, and it has a general sense of something you feel is either you love or you value. Because if it's not something you love, it doesn't matter if it's lost, right? If it's not something of value to you, or something that is deeply meaningful to you, it doesn't matter if you lost it. Like if you lose the cap to your bottle, you're not attached to it, right? So you're not going to mourn that. However, when it comes to our pets, when it comes to, even sometimes I say to people, the reason, people have certain possessions, like let's say someone's got their grandmother's locket, or lots of black and white photos that, got lost in a house fire or whatever. They're mourning that because that is the only connection they may have to a whole lot of family members, right? Are these photos and things, and could be meaningful to them. So anyway, the general context I use is a loss. Now, regardless, on the outside of the context, right? On the outside, whatever the story is that brings on this fight or flight mechanism, that's the thing that then has a downstream effect, which is your signs and symptoms. And working through massage allows some of these, when people feel them in their body, by the way, when people feel these, whether it's the heart racing or the shock or the chest tightening or the stomach gripping or all these other things, right, that they feel with grief, the natural, because nobody's given us a grief skill class,
no,
people tend to run up into their heads and try to find a solution, like, oh my God, what can I do for this backache or jaw clenching or whatever it is, lack of sleep, irritation, just feeling overwhelmed every second. People run up into their head, but the brain is not able to solve a body problem. It can solve a mind problem. It can look into the past for reference. It can look into the future for possibilities, but it does not know what to do about your stomach churning. So the problem has to be solved in the body, but that's where it's painful to be. So massage allows you massage is a conduit to help you come back safely into your body and allow the fight or flight to be alleviated a little bit. Once that's alleviated a little bit, the person can now go into a mostly what we call a relaxation state, where the symptoms calm down. They're less overwhelming. So when they get off the table, they're able to, they will say, I feel lighter. I feel like 6 months worth of whatever it is I was carrying around is gone. I had one client who had 8 years of guilt in her situation. She just said, I don't feel like I need to hold my shoulders up anymore. I can let them go.
Wow.
So that's the power of grief massage.
Well, and I think you said a lot of like really profound things here, because we're talking about, you know, the mind body connection, and so many people will say, you know, that they have that mind body connection and that they can, you know, just internally, you know, change things, right? Just by the power of thought, which in some cases, to some degree, can be true, depending on how well trained you are, because, and this is what I really want to accentuate, because you've alluded to this a couple of times, right? And that is the mind doesn't know how to heal, right? Like it has to either go to the past or to the future, right? For information. So when we're talking about, you know, getting into that fight or flight, right? So if we're talking about the brain, that means, hey, we're going into the limbic system. We're now, you know, knee jerk reactive, and we really want to try to get ourselves up into our frontal lobe, where we can bring in reason and you know, logic and intuition, those kinds of things. So what we're and for all intent and purposes, what we're saying is, you know, we have to learn things that we don't know, right? So emotional intelligence is not an innate, it's not an innate talent, right? Emotional intelligence, it is not something that we're born with. It is not something that we will even obtain unless we consciously seek to learn it, cultivate it, condition it, and practice it, etc., over and over, right? And these are the things, like in my program, we are creating recovery lifestyles that are filled with the emotional intelligence that we didn't have, right? Because if we had that level of emotional intelligence, we wouldn't be seeking the alcohol, the food, the whatever things that you get when you go to Target and fill your cart, right? Bright, shiny objects, right? We wouldn't be doing that, right? We wouldn't be relying on things outside of us to bring us peace, joy, comfort, relief. So what I'm saying is that there's an element, a cognitive element, that if we really tap into it, we'll be able to listen and hear our bodies. And this is something that I teach in my Attain and Maintain courses, is that ability to hear your physical being. It will tell you what you need. And so if we transition now to that fight or flight of the physical body, if we are hearing it, we can go then and provide it with what it truly needs, which is release, calm, right? Relaxation from a distressing event. Like it gets in, it's like almost like it goes into a shock mode, and it can't release on its own, right? We have to provide it with that, whether that's the physical touch of massage, stretch, you know, whatever, right? But you have to have the cognitive level of emotional intelligence, which is what made me feel like you were such an important piece to bring to my audience, to my clients, is to help them realize that you have to purposefully marry the mind and the body to really serve it completely.
Yeah, I agree. And in this feedback that people give when they get off the table, right? It's the first sense of whatever it is that they say, whether I feel lighter, or I was finally able to cry, or I saw bright white light, or whatever it is their feedback is, whatever is meaningful to them. They now have a new association to their body. So even if they're afraid to be in their body, they know that if I can go get a massage, I can feel safe in my body and it's okay. I'll feel better. So it's a newer association. And when they start to see that positive association and the changes, right? They are more, because, it serves as a motivation. Okay, what else can I do to feel like this good stuff? Like, what else can I do to feel calmer? What else can I do to feel like I'm confident now? And that's when they become more open to other things that I might be able to suggest, which is, as a health coach, to look at what their nutrition's like, looking at what is their sleep like, looking at what is their connection, like family time, downtime, hobby time. Do they do something like volunteer, making mindful connections in a way that they feel they helped somebody? Because two of the things that I teach is about curiosity and gratitude, because it is just impossible for the brain to be ruminating and running around in amygdala circles, which is, fight or flight circles, when it is curious and when it is in gratitude. So when I teach people about volunteering, it's not just, oh, go spend your time at the dog shelter. Not that. I don't need to give you a task.
Right.
But I'm going to suggest that when you help the dogs, you're going to feel something that is not going to happen if you're sitting at home or sitting somewhere or ruminating with somebody all day long. It's that's also a change in state that is the mind body. But I quickly wanted to go back to a point from earlier, Trisha, is I wanted to talk about something that a lot of people don't talk about, and that is the enteric nervous system. We do have a nervous system located in our gut. And it is called the enteric, which is usually, you go gastroenterologist, right? So enteric is mostly our intestinal area in the gut. And we have an enteric nervous system. And this is why people say, I have a gut feeling, or that was the sucker punch in my gut, or my gut tells me. Why do we use the word gut? Because actually we do have a nervous system that is located in our guts. It is our second brain. And we mostly feel our emotions in that. Now, this is interesting. I had a client probably 4 days ago who came in for a grief massage. She's experiencing a anniversary. And the body knows anniversaries of loss. Your body will tell you the week before, hey, loss anniversary coming up, hey. And people show up with lots of different aches, pains, imbalances, stuff. And they'll say, I don't know why my elbow started hurting this week. And when you peel back the layers, you'll notice that there's some kind of anniversary happening. So this client came because she had an anniversary of a loss that is still affecting her deeply. And when she got off the table, she said, I talked to her yesterday because the anniversary is today. I talked to her yesterday and she said, well, after the massage, I felt this tightness in my chest and it went down into my stomach and then it disappeared. And so I wanted to bring that up because I can't even make these things up, even if I wanted to, right? Because the body is so fascinating. But if we can alleviate some of these physical tensions, stuckness, if you will, it goes a long way in just raising awareness, raising possibilities, and raising hope. That's where this all is, raising hope that there is a way, that there is a path. I can go down this. I can build my strength.
Absolutely. Just to even validate that even further, the piece that you were talking about, the anniversary. I have clients, my head went to one specific because it was probably one of the most recent, but also one of the largest in severity of experience for this one particular client. But I have several others that it, happens in varying degrees. This one in particular, it really prompts a lot of things. And this was the first year, even though I believe it's been more like 5-6 years now since the significant loss. But many different symptomatic responses in her physical body. And this was the first year she was able to tie it back to significant anniversaries that were all leading up to the one significant loss,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a series of events that led up to the loss. But there was this, it was almost like they were stacking on top of each other,
Mm-hmm.
a physical, manifestation, if you will.
Yeah.
It was almost like there was one for every significant layer of that particular event. And I found that to be super interesting as you brought it up, to be able to cross-reference that to, yes, I can validate that. Yes, this is absolutely true, because I actually have cases that this is happening in their life. So, I always like it when there's cross-validation of unrelated people. So, that it's very much true. And so if we know, so if we're sitting here, say, directly in the middle between anniversaries, right? So that 6 month, we'll call it the 6 month mark between, a loss and the anniversary. We can now, with this information that you're giving us, we can go, okay, so how am I going to be prepared for this? Like, maybe we're setting calendar reminders to be listening to our body, to be watching for physical, white flags, red flags, whatever you want to call them, be watching for that, so that this year we can start working towards changing, correcting, shifting, morphing, whatever it is, the body memory of the traumatic events, and so that we can get to where it doesn't manifest physically for us, maybe in a year or two from now.
Yeah. And it's a constant cycle. You can't have one without the other, right? You can't say, well, I'm going to heal my mind and I don't have time for the body. No. Or you can't have a one size fits all. I see, I've worked with a lot of, I've worked with law enforcement before, and I cannot imagine each day for them and what they see. And a lot of people, law enforcement is just a small subset, but a lot of people will shove it down. Especially, I have found this to be in the male population. Yep. will suppress it. I have found it to be in high level, like C-level executive levels, where they will suppress it and they'll say, I don't have time for this or whatever. And what I say to people is, the more you suppress something, it has to go somewhere. I mean, it has to go somewhere, right? Just because you throw your trash in a bin and you put it in your big garbage and the garbage collector comes and gets it, doesn't mean you rid the planet of your trash. It's going to go into a landfill. It goes somewhere.
It does. It goes somewhere.
It goes somewhere. And so it's very interesting, because I use something called an emotional pain chart. And an emotional pain chart actually charts out where people tend to hold their stuff that they have pushed down. And so it's very, it's very
For
interesting.
me,
When and what's so interesting is the language that they use. I just have to go on the chart and be like, oh, that's how this person must be feeling, because the language that comes out, because people aren't very, not everybody's sitting here, and especially when you are struggling with grief or addiction or something that's overwhelming to your system, you're not sitting there and preparing like a speech. You're just saying how you feel. And the words people use, I find, are very telling as to what's going on the inside. And when I match it up with that chart, I then get the opportunity to ask them follow-up questions, which puts them really close to where this is occurring, which then helps me address it through massage, if that's the person who's like in my office, right? So then I can hone in. Is it the shoulders? Is it the low back? Are they holding it in their knees? Where is it? And it's like a scavenger hunt. It is. But it's once you address it, once you find it and you address it poignantly, it makes all the difference. Now, with people that are virtual, it's something where, I still hear the language and I can give them certain things to do physically, right? Which alleviates some of this burden that they're carrying. But then it also matters, how are you feeding yourself? How are you sleeping? Are you nourishing? Are you rejuvenating? Where are the blocks? Because if sleep is not coming to you, then we have to address that. We have to see what's going on and how can we get you to sleep, right? Because that is one of the most restorative things any day, but especially in grief.
well, and okay, so I'm just going to call it my population, right? Like there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of loss, there's also, again, a lot of guilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shame, remorse, ruminating,
Yes.
swallowing,
Yes.
etc. So when they're getting ready to go to sleep, and sure, we have our skill sets and tactics that that we utilize, or that but they take of course time, and dedication and determination and persistence, to train the brain to be quiet, right? So we get all this overthinking, the mental reels, the loops, the what do I call them? I call them what you do, but when you're running your lines, when you're practicing for a play.
Oh, rehearsal, right? Like, yeah.
Rehearsal.
Almost, yeah.
The rehearsals are going on and
yeah.
on and on and on. And so getting that sleep is so important if we're going to heal any of those things that are promoting the overthinking and the rehearsals and all of that, right? The mental reels going on. So tell us more about this ability to promote sleep. Like,
so one of the things that I really use foundationally is about movement. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't have, like, you don't have to go to the gym kind of movement. That's just one type of movement. Movement could be stretching on the floor. Movement could be, kind of like doing this when you're getting your food, right? That's movement. Movement could be putting on your favorite tune and doing what I call the kitchen dance off.
Yeah.
Like,
I do that all the time.
Bring your dog in, bring your cat in, bring your spouse in, whoever you want to have the dance off with. But there's also, I suggest to clients taking a bath, because warmth against the skin is what activates calming receptors. Mm-hmm. Because right from the time we're born, right, we're in a cocoon, we're in warmth, we're then carried and cradled and and water. And so when having a bath, I have sometimes clients who will say, oh, I don't take baths. I go, okay, well, let's not call it a bath, let's call it a 15-minute immersion. whatever word will work for you.
Right. I love that because yeah, I would probably tell you the same thing. I don't care for baths.
Yeah. And I tell them, it's a 10-minute, 15-minute immersion treatment. And you're going there with an intention. You're going there with an intention of how can I create a ritual of calm? So you get in the water is going to have that nice little water sound, which is coming to the brain. You've got a warm temperature, which now the receptors on your skin gets to the brain. The brain's like, it's just like taking a hot shower, very calming. And now I tell people to throw in some Epsom salts. And why do I tell them to throw in some Epsom salts is because if you look at some of the studies that have been done and the information that's easily available, the magnesium that's available in the Epsom salts can seep in through your skin and facilitate muscle relaxation. It can facilitate sleep. It's called a calming mineral for a reason. So this is one of the things that, I even tell marathon runners because that calms their muscles after they've used it, for practice or even the real event, the actual event. So there's that. And if in order to create a nice ritual with it, I'll tell people to do it when it's close to bedtime because one, you're not running to a meeting. You don't have to pick up anybody from anywhere. You don't have to, be on Zoom or whatever it is, right? So a little bit of dimming of the lights so that your brain knows that we're cueing it to calm down. We're cueing it to wind down the day. Mm-hmm. And then doing like a 15-minute bath or immersion treatment, whatever you want to call it, in some Epsom salts. And then I'll tell people, if you feel like it, what's beneficial is just, just do some quick stretches and put yourself in bed. That's all you have to do. And now I'm not going to say it's a one size fits all and everybody's rumination is going to go away from today and this is all that there is. But if you're not doing anything, here's something to try. And try it in steps. Sometimes people want to do it every day and make it like brushing their teeth, putting their pajamas, after they take their bath. Some people want to do it a couple times a week. Whatever it is, try it your way, see what works. Don't just do it blindly because now you're losing the connection of what's helping you. But, take note, hey, this bath really helped me. It really calmed me. I slept better, whatever it is. I woke up energized. People also don't talk about
that enough. We never look at what works well and why. Like, and even when I teach it, I'm always, reminding, like we get super complacent with it. We might do it for a week, like, oh yeah, I'm going to look at what went well today. The reflection on the day, I call it night hygiene. Right? Like what went well today? Why? How can I capitalize on this? How can I, continue the momentum? How can I, whatever it is, right? Just to give it that big acknowledgement. First of all, people generally will start with looking at and focusing on what didn't go well. So I say, flip that script. Let's always celebrate your wins. And I don't care how little or big, it doesn't have to be like some monumental event. It can be, hey, I didn't lose my cool today. That's a win. Yay. What went well today? Why? What didn't go as well as I had hoped, right? And why? And how can I bring stuff in from another area to shift it, change it, and help it go in the right direction? And then for the what didn't work, look at the why and then dump it. Just throw it away. Okay, back to the drawing board. No big deal. No skin off my nose. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But when we start with the good stuff, it makes the not great stuff, one, a lot smaller, right? And two, not our primary focus.
I also think it helps in moving to the next step. I think, what happens a lot, and while we have a great medical system, I think what happens is we've outsourced, I call it outsourced, we've outsourced our health to pharmaceuticals and whatever people call medical care these days, right? So what's happened is when you outsource, you don't look at it anymore. You're like, this
Give away
person
your
told me to
power.
take this person told me to take this pill, so I'm going to be able to just take this pill and that should be fine. And so what I teach my clients is, if the pill isn't working, if the method isn't working, I can't tell you how many times I have heard, oh, I've been doing this a long time, but why do you still have the symptoms?
Right. Like if
Why
if it's not working.
if it's not working, like why we, but nobody questions that. So I teach my clients to actually ask their doctors, all right, I'm going to take this medication. What should I be feeling? How long should I be feeling it for? How do I know it's working? How do I know it's not working? When can we like do an evaluation again? Because who wants to stay stuck a year from now taking the same pill, spending the same amount of money, and there's no results? Now, when you
I'm
are
with
able
you.
to ask, when you're able to ask a couple of things, and especially when you get this body awareness, right? Oh, this helped me feel better. Oh, let me do more of this. And oh, I'm going to go tell my doctor I felt really good after this massage, or after I ate, after I drank a green smoothie every day for the 30 days. I tried it out.
Right.
I
Right.
felt better. So I don't think we do that enough. I don't think we get up in the morning and say, I feel energized, or why don't I feel energized?
Don't feel energized. What's the word for it? Right. We still want to assign some sort of an adjective. People go through life. It's like, hey, how are you? I'm fine. Fine is probably the most ambiguous word when you're talking about describing yourself and how you feel in a moment, because fine can be from the finest piece of hair that would break if you looked at it sideways to like a very fine piece of, a jewel, like, a fine diamond, if fine is an ambiguous term at best, when trying to describe yourself. So we got to quit using it. Like,
yeah, actually, if you listen to,
I'm inspired, I'm intrigued, I'm motivated, I'm, distraught, I'm, pick a good adjective.
yeah, and this comes back actually to naming your emotion, because when you can name it, you can address it.
Absolutely.
And this is the other thing is, emotions have a way of, you have the emotion, then you feel the emotion, and then your expression of the emotion shows up. Like we see whether you're scowling, whether you're smiling, whether you're twitching, whether you're, tapping your foot, pacing the floor. What is that? And I teach people to actually notice these things, because name your emotion. If you say to me, Marelda, I'm really angry. Okay, now I know anger. I can ask you some qualifying questions. What made you angry? What helps you out? If you just come in and you're just grumpy and grouchy, and then you say, I'm fine.
Well, yeah, no, you're not. Well, okay, so big association, right? Like I am in a spectacular mood, right? I'm feeling super inspired. I'm feeling super motivated. However, physically, I'm feeling, right? Because it's different. Physically, I'm feeling uncomfortable and, well, itchy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, I woke up that way, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
having an issue with, I don't know, whatever, itching. I've just been itchy. And, so there's that physical, how am I doing, right? Like I'm having an amazing day, spectacular and super inspired. I've been super productive. However, physically, I'm a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And what do I want to do for that in this time and space, yada, yada. And so being able to discern the difference between the two when they aren't marrying. Sure, it's distracting for me cognitively, right? But what I found for me, and this is me just kind of giving you guys an example, because you've all been watching me sit here shifting and moving in my chair, right? What I've found for me is that by moving, it's helping me stay focused, right? Because it's giving me just enough physical body movement to where I'm not sitting here, scratching my shoulders or, my legs. And yet it's allowing with enough movement to redirect that physical discomfort and keep the brain focused. Anyway, that was like a weird bringing it in, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I hear you.
The world according to the physical body. It's interesting, but you have to be listening to it.
You do have to be listening to it. And this is actually one of the pieces of grief massage is keeping the person present. Because listen, there's a lot of like rumination and chitter chatter and stuff and hectic schedule. And oh my God, I'm here in a massage. And, they come in with that energy.
What's
right?
next?
What's next? And so when they're on the table, the last thing we're trying to do is keep them in that state, because it's not allowing the physical body to do what it's supposed to do. It's still the sort of like it's still running the show. And so one of the things that I do is, now if you've had a massage, a lot of times people will lay down and they'll sort of like zone out, but their brains are going or whatever. And, they're still like, oh, I'm going to cook cauliflower today, or Jane's got to be picked up from the daycare or whatever it is, right? So part of the techniques that I do use stop that. It disrupts it and kind of keeps the person on the table in their body, because they've already been escaping it. But
right.
In a safe way, it's bringing them back, and they're sort of feeling the muscular release of whatever tensions they were holding, wherever they were holding it. So some of the techniques of grief massage is literally that. It's to keep the person present and disrupt that sort of like chitter chatter. Yeah.
Right. Well, because I think a lot of people think, I'm just going to lay here and I'm not going to talk, and I'm going to, I'm guilty of those kinds of things, like, enjoying to go sit down for a pedicure or, a manicure, or, getting your hair done, all of those things that so many people really appreciate as, like, I don't know, pampering or relax.
Yeah.
Not me. It's a to-do. It's
a self-care
task. And I just got to go and do it. And it's just in, out, right? Like I'm in, I'm out. But in the same respect with a massage, for me, I have to really get in the right headspace to even go. Because I know, like, if I'm still thinking, my shoulders aren't going to get the relief that I'm needing, right? The connective tissue is not going to respond the way I need it to respond, or I'm wanting it to respond, because I'm up here in the tension. And so it's just all going to stay. It's not going to go anywhere if I'm not present. If I'm not present, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If I'm not present in the room while getting a massage, meaning I know I'm here for a massage, it's to be healing for me. If I'm not there, if I'm not present, then I don't get the benefit.
Actually, your relaxation can happen because the communication that takes place bypasses some of your brain situation. Oh. It happens in the nervous system, obviously, but it doesn't have to go into the cognitive side. So massage speaks directly, because when I massage someone, part of the relaxation response is a slower heart rate, a lowering of blood sugar, a slowing of the pulse, a gurgling of the belly, a deepening of the breath. These aren't things that the cognitive brain necessarily gets involved with. You don't ask yourself, can I breathe slower now? Nope. When you have the touch, it directly addresses the nervous system that is involved with the relaxation. Now, your massage therapist is the conduit. So your massage therapist is somebody that needs to be on point with the energy that you've come in the door with. Your general nuances, like how do you now I will tell you, we call them controlling clients, and controlling clients means that they don't switch off. They're the clients who, when they're on the table and I go to put the bolster under their feet, they've already lifted their feet. And I'm like, can you just let me do this? Because you're messing up my sheets.
Yeah. Right.
So, or if I'm trying to lift their leg to put the sheet under it or something, like they've lifted the leg and now what happens is now you've totally pushed the sheet off and now you're exposed. And I'm going, oh, I didn't need that show. But if you could just stay still.
TMI.
Yeah. So the thing is, these are the people, and sometimes they'll say, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. Now that's okay to tell me in the intake, because now you're helping me design your treatment. But when you're on the table and you're micromanaging, now I know your brain is not shifted. And that's the key to me. So it's so important as a therapist to be tuned into that, because I know the techniques that will get that done with.
Right.
By bypassing the cognitive side.
That's awesome. This is all so amazing and so intriguing. Again, like here we are, just like every other time we've gotten together, we're in our last 9 minutes here together. And I think we could just keep talking, because I love hearing that different perspective, because I think that, I think so many of us think that we have to just choose like this one healing path, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to do this. And so when it only helps with 50 to 3/4% of your issue, because you didn't allow that professional to help you build a collaborative team, right? And I'm saying this as my little gentle nudges, right? Like to all my folks, like if I make a suggestion to you, like, when we're looking at our life balance, or we're looking at our distress tolerance tactics, or we're seeking things that we're going to be bringing in that are going to be beneficial for emotion regulation, or, reactivity, shifting that into a responsiveness. Like there are so many people out there that have uncovered, discovered, created, like Marelda has, like I have, like Dr. Melissa has, like all of us, we have a different, our own little approach, but our special little space that we can fill in your life. So if I'm seeing a spiritual gap, or we'll call it empty zone in your spirituality, category, whatever that is. And we've determined for you that in your spirituality, it's a mind-body connection. And I say to you, let's find you a Marelda, right? Or let's talk with Marelda and have her help us find you somebody in your local area that can do that, because, not everybody's where you are. Like if I'm making those suggestions to my clients, most of my clients will go, sure. Some of them are like, okay, they'll take it under advisement, and that's fine too. But like, there's so many of us that when we all come together, that, you can really make your own your recovery journey your own. You can have every single one of your needs in a recovery journey met. There isn't a one size fits all. That'd be like saying, okay, go to detox, go to 30 days residential, then because you've got, your detox from alcohol, you have 30 days of sobriety. Now you can just rely on AA and weekly, trauma therapy. And that might be enough for some, but it's not for everybody. Because now we have to insert the people that AA doesn't speak to. Now we've got to insert the people that don't need trauma therapy. Now we've got to, it so needs to be, your recovery journey needs to look, feel, be however you want it to, need it to, and that are going to produce the outcome that you aspire to attain, so that we can teach you how to maintain it lifelong. Like, we're creating lifestyles here. We're not just trying to remove a substance. We're not just trying to remove a behavior. We're not just trying to remove a process or, whatever it is. Like, it's a recovery lifestyle journey. Right? Anyway, so I know that you had some very specific, what did you say? Wellness tips to have better mood, energy, and sleep. Did you have like some bullet points that we can leave everybody with that they can write down? Because I know they all got a pen and paper.
Absolutely, they have pen and paper, and
if not, they're going to push pause.
Yes,
right?
They're going to hit pause or rewind or whatever. Well, so by far, I would say, the relaxation through an immersion, water immersion is it's just magical. If you want to do that through a sauna treatment, dry sauna, wet sauna, really doesn't matter. Sauna treatments help it. Massage is going to help it. Being able to move your body, right? I talked about very briefly about the stretching, but sometimes what I do suggest to my clients is keeping a playlist of 10 to 15 minutes of different yoga stretches. So I don't mean the sun salutations. There's more to yoga than like the strenuous stuff, right? That just like not everything is kickboxing. There's slower, low impact exercises. So doing some form of like 15 minutes, and I tell people, pick a body part. If your head, neck, shoulders are feeling tight one day, 15 minutes of stretching with a yoga video or a stretch video for your head, neck, shoulders, or your, hamstrings, or maybe your calves are tight. You walked a lot that day, or you're just feeling like meh, which means an all body, a full body sort of stretching routine. And it just literally can take 15 to 20 minutes. You're not doing something extensive that's an hour to an hour and 15 minutes.
Right.
Having dimmer lights. I tell people, stop using white lights, start having yellow lights, dimmer lights. And
love the
other thing is
amber lighting is so calming and relaxing.
It is. And also devices, right? Powering down devices and not having electronics, because something that people don't realize that affects their sleep is also electromagnetic fields. Having a TV in your room, having things plugged in your room, having your devices in your room increases your electromagnetic fields, and that affects sleep. So when you have a room that is literally where you sleep, right? You're not watching TV, you're not like this, and you're not
like white noise, man.
So, using, some of these habits. Now, is everybody going to get rid of all of this? And, today you stop everything and you start a whole new thing. It's not going to work that way. It's really try and see what works for you. Try the time of day and see what works for you. See if you want to do your power down routine an hour before sleep, half an hour before. I don't know what works for you. So I just suggest people trying and see if it works. See if you feel better. If you don't feel better, stop doing it.
Right.
Stop doing it, right? If it's not feeling better, then it's just a waste of time. And we don't need to waste time. We're trying to get to something that's progressive, that's healing, that's actually moving you from point A to point B.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I do my night hygiene routine, and in general hour forms, right? Like I start it around 8 p.m. right? Give or take. Well, never earlier, but 8 p.m. between 8 and 9, right? And then, so I've done all my power down, the phone is down, the face is washed, whatever. I've done my recap of the day, well, my whole process. And then, I hop into my bed, I lay there, I watch TV, right? For me, it's mindlessness. It's now, it's a little bit of entertainment, but not cognitively stimulating. I'm sure I get the the electromagnetic stuff. I understand. But then, then it's that, generally I do fall asleep to the TV because it keeps me in a mindless state. if I try turning it off, and I'm working on this, I'm working on getting it smaller and smaller, but if I turn it off too soon, a lot of times what happens is the brain fires back up, right? Like I have to get to a specific state of mindlessness, if you will. Usually what happens is, like it's usually about an hour and a half, right, of laying there. And then the brain will, then I'll just start to doze. And then I'm like, okay, I'm starting to nod. Now I can turn it off. But that's for me, and that works for me, and it's worked for me. And I track my sleep, and I do get scores, and I can tell what's going on wrong. And that's another thing, like track it, get feedback from something, whether it's this thing or, a sensor in your mattress, whatever it is. But, I like that. That's a good motivator for me to get to a space where I can actually, still have those things that I like to do, but still turn them off.
And also don't forget that your body is beyond just the outside stuff. There's stuff going in, chemically speaking, there's a lot of stuff going on the inside. So what you eat matters, what time you eat matters. If you've got digestion happening and you're trying to get into bed, it's just not going to work. The temperature in the room matters. It needs to be about 69 degrees, right? For that's just the optimal sleep number. But if yours is not 69, if yours is 67, great. If yours is 72, great. Find what it is.
Edit, delete, make it your own. Right?
Yeah, totally. But what I wanted to say about, on the inside, in addition to the food, is also the taking the bath with the Epsom salts, because now that they're in your body through your skin, they're facilitating, that's something that I tell people to try. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, now we know. But that's what I mean by the body is so dynamic. And when we can just let it do its thing, instead of saying, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and and that's sort of like, can we let it just flow, and can we just let it go and just do its little thing? Sometimes we see results that we may not have seen because we've never thought about it before.
Right. Wow. This has been nothing short of amazing. Everybody, please, if you would like us to come back again and, continue conversations, if you have like a list of questions you want to, submit, we'd be happy to, right? Like, yeah. I love your company. So, anyway, feel free, or shoot us direct messages and we'll reply to you with them. But, perhaps if you all send in enough questions, we'll come in and we'll just get them out. We'll just get them all answered.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
So sure. Marelda's going to drop her contact information down in the comments for you here as soon as we hang up, so that you can reach out and get in touch with her. Mine will be in there as well. Not that you don't know how to find me. And yeah, we look forward to, I don't know, seeing what's next for us. We'll have to, again, hook up and plan it out. I'm going to go ahead and stop the live really quick. Don't hang up. I'll be right. Bye, everybody.